20 years, the International Space Station has been orbiting the Earth every 90 minutes. I didn't know it was up there for 20 years. Man, time flies. And there's been like experiments sent to the space station often for the past 20 years. They keep sending new experiments. And some of the things they look into in regards to experiments, they look into how the skin reacts to space, the radiation. They look at how tumors are affected, how plant growth is affected by microgravity. They also look at reproduction. I know I read somewhere that gravity is actually needed for reproduction and development of embryos. I don't know to what extent. I think there are experiments being done up there. I noticed, or I read somewhere that they looked at rats. I think what else? Rats, mice, rabbits. There are some ethical issues with regard to experimenting with humans, but there was some talk about how gravity plays an important role in reproduction of life. So I guess there would be some issues, it looks like. That's what they're hinting at, but there's nothing definitive that I've read. But there have been some hints that for reproduction to be successful, there may require gravity, not just microgravity, but maybe more like full gravity, like on Earth. So I guess maybe for reproduction to be successful, they may have to mimic that. I'm not sure. Everything I'm saying is just conjecture, right? Just based on what some of the experiments I've read about are leaning towards. They look also into plant growth. And there's one experiment, I think it's sponsored by Colgate Palmolive. I think I'm thinking of the commercial with the Palmolive soap. It's what does the saying go? There's a slogan. Something soften your hands while you do dishes. I can't remember. It was something like that I heard. But they were looking at also the effects of aging up there in space, and some astronauts did report thinning skin, which it's similar to aging process on the Earth, but maybe it happens at a faster rate there. I'm not sure. Again, it's just conjecture on my part, guess, just based on what I'm reading. It's not clear because the experiments take a long time to observe. Whether it's reproduction, whether it's tumors, whether it's plant life, or how insects react, how our nutrition reacts. I know that they also did mention that even though it affects the sperm in male species of just different animals, they say I think there was, I forgot what animal they had up there, maybe rabbits or something. They were still able to reproduce once they brought them back to Earth, like normal, healthy babies. So it didn't have an adverse effect, like the time they spent in space, as far as them coming back to reproduce. But reproducing in space, they haven't been able to formulate a live birth in space, as far as the rats and mice or rabbits are concerned. So it's still something that's ongoing. I forgot what else is going on up there as far as the experiments. They say they get experiments every, I don't know, is it every year or every month? I don't know how often they send experiments up there for them to do. I didn't even know they were being funded by certain companies. I mean, I'm not surprised, but I just, you don't know the details, but you just think about, it just kind of crosses your mind that it's a possibility. I'm also wondering, with the current conflict, because it's International Space Station, how do these astronauts from different countries cooperate or even communicate now, especially in this time with the conflict between Ukraine and Russia? That's just something that kind of makes me wonder. But also, I wonder what experiments are being done as far as seeing how you heal from maybe cuts or bruises. What's the healing process like? How does gravity affect that? I'm curious. Or maybe you twist an ankle, or you stub your toe. And maybe I could look that up. I know there have been studies on how gravity affects your sleep. That would be kind of neat, right? You're sleeping, floating in the air, but I would still think you need to be strapped down, right? Because you don't want to float around and something else is floating around and you get bumped in the head by a box. Because I could see how that could happen. But I always wondered that how it affects their sleep. I did heard that I read, sorry, not heard. I read a while back also about some muscle atrophy with prolonged time spent in space. Now that I think about it, I could see how that could happen. I mean, because the gravity is not the same as it is here on Earth, right? So your muscles aren't working as hard because there's microgravity, not exactly zero gravity, but it's microgravity, right? So it's way less than here on Earth. You know, funny, I read this old sci-fi book by an author named Jack McDevitt. I read a couple of his books. Some things I had issue with before, but that's for another video or thread or topic or whatever. But there was this one that I thought about that's kind of related to this. He had two people fly to another planet. I forgot what they were going there for, and they met. They discovered this new planet, and the inhabitants looked like us humans, except they only had 23 chromosomes compared to our, what is it, 26? Do we have 26? Everything is off the top of my head. I can't remember. I think it's 26. So they had like, I think 3 or 4 less chromosomes than we did, and it was a high gravity planet. But the funny part was every time they got sick, they got their vitals weren't reacting to how those humans expected to react. So they were like, "You guys should be dead by now." But it was because again, our chromosomes are different. So on the outside, they look just like humans, and we look like them. But on the I guess the DNA to DNA level, it was slightly off. Again, it was a high gravity planet, so they would probably be a little stronger, and their vitals operated different. You know, DNA has less chromosomes. But I thought it was funny how the high gravity, you know, it would help as far as your muscle, retaining muscle or building more muscle, and then you go from, you know, being in a place with high gravity to less gravity or zero gravity. I can clearly see how that would affect the muscle atrophy. It makes me wonder how gravity, or the lack of it, affects different parts of our body, like our nervous system, our immune system, even our sense, smell, taste, hearing. I don't know. I've never thought about like as much how much gravity influences things that we do here. So that would make me think about the space travel. Like they would have to mimic gravity, I guess, for our normal biological processes. I assume. I would think. I don't know. Yes, I do have education in science background, but I'm not an expert in any of this. I'm just reading and interpreting from what I'm interpreting. This is, again, I keep repeating, it's all conjecture on my part, just guesswork, but I find it interesting and fascinating. And I just came across like just a short paragraph about what's happening at the space station, International Space Station, and I thought it was interesting, especially right now with everything going on, how if they are working together on things. I know maybe someone's out there with more information and more detail that they could probably comment. Just let me know your thoughts. Feel free to comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for taking time out to listen. Thanks.